The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
FSN, it's about what's next. Well, the person you're about to hear from really needs no introduction. You're quite familiar with his book. It's a classic, The Creature from Jekyll Island, and we want to get an update from G. Edward Griffin on where he sees the Fed at now and where they're heading. Mr. Griffin, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure, you know that. And look, one thing I've noticed recently is there's no new money, no new dollar bills, 5s, 10s, 20s, and 100s coming into the system. I mean, I have some friends, they were in the ATM business. They had ATMs around Palm Beach County, Florida, and they had to sell the business because they couldn't get fresh money. What is going on with the Federal Reserve? Why is not the Treasury printing new money up? There's something going on here.
Well, you know, that's a very interesting statement, and frankly, I was not really aware of that. And I'm struggling to come up with some kind of a logical explanation for it, because as I think everybody knows that they should at least be constantly replacing old currency that gets worn out, torn, and all that kind of thing. And the fact that they're not doing that is a surprise to me. The only reason I could think is that the money supply in circulation, at least the circulating bills, is shrinking, and they're making a conscious effort to reduce that amount. But that's contrary to what their normal policy is. Of course, the currency in circulation is, of course, a very small percentage of the total. The real action takes place in checkbook money and computer money. Impulses in a computer. That's where the billions and trillions of dollars are. Last time I checked, I think the amount of money in circulation that was in the form of currency or coin was 3% or less, probably a lot less than that. So I really don't know what to say on that, except that maybe it's a result of the fact that currency is becoming less and less an important part of the total economic exchange. I know that certainly is a long-range goal of the banking system. They would like to get rid of currency completely. And we know that a couple of smaller banks in Europe have already experimented with that, but they announced they're no longer taking currency. They'll just deal with checkbook money and credit card money. So it could be a part of that long-range trend. But I guess what I'm doing is apologizing for saying I don't really have any hard information on that. But those are two possibilities.
Yeah, well, certainly, the trend in society is less cash, whether it's going through toll plazas, buying gasoline, food. Everybody uses plastic now, and the number of transactions where cash currency is used is definitely diminishing over time, and government loves that because then every transaction is an open book. So obviously that's the goal over time. And you see, I think it's Norway has the lowest percentage of cash transactions of any country in the world. I think it's less than 3% or maybe even 2%. And you wonder how you're going to launder money if there's no money to launder. Right.
Well, right. No money to launder. And of course, that word laundering money is a pejorative word. We all launder money in a sense. So it's nobody's business how we're spending our money, and least of all, it's not the government's business how we're spending our money. And that audit trail provides a record of where we've been and who we're supporting and who our friends are. All kinds of personal information is available by tracking financial transactions, and it's just nobody's business. And so if we want the privacy of our financial transactions, and of course those who don't want us to have privacy call it money laundering, and it makes it sound like we're some kind of crack dealer or something like that. But it's all part of the political game to get everything into the books. So our economic activities and therefore our whole lives can be monitored.
Yeah, that seems...
I, for one, don't think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, that seems what the game is. So I guess traveler's checks, right?
Yes.
You'll just go buy traveler's checks and then endorse them off to other people, and they'll just keep signing and signing them. I don't know. There will always be a way. Alternative currencies, we get into the Bitcoin realm. Well, that doesn't seem to be working out too well, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that's too bad, because I had great hopes for Bitcoin, but I've always felt that it had one terrible weakness. Well, take the word terrible off of it. It had one weakness. Bitcoin's had everything you could possibly want in the money except one thing, which is one of the characteristics of a sound or good money system, and that is it has value in itself. It has what they like to call intrinsic value, which means simply that it has value for something other than money. Gold, for example, or silver has value in jewelry. It has value in circuit boards and industry and all that kind of thing. And all of the money throughout history that has lasted and preserved the purchasing power of the people who used it was something like that had this value for something other than money. Well, when you turn to Bitcoins, it doesn't exist. It's what some people call vaporware. It's just digits in a computer, and you can't bury it in a tin can. You can't take it with you. You can't hide it if it's just in a computer, and somebody who's in charge of that computer closes it down, such as recently happened. They go bankrupt, go out of business. With all those digits just disappear, and the people who were depending on them for value just lose. So that's the weakness of Bitcoin. It has all the other good features, however, and I hope it doesn't disappear. I'd like someday to see somebody figure out some way to tie Bitcoins to something of intrinsic value, so that one characteristic could be added to it.
Yeah, I always I love the concept of it. Alternative currency agreed to by people in the free market. That's always been a big point by Dr. Ron Paul, competing currencies, and
sure.
There's an appeal to it, and let the free market decide. And the free market liked it, but the free market will dispose of it because it has that glaring flaw that you pointed out, Mr. Griffin, that it has no independent existence other than being bits and bytes in a computer, and hopefully they'll come up with something else. Hey, and that you brought up a great story that just appeared in the papers. These people walking along on their land, and they find a bunch of cans of gold coins from the mid to late 1800s. Turns out they found a treasure trove of $10 million worth of coins, and they're not letting their name get out because they don't want to be a target of lawsuits of, I think that was my great-grandfather's treasure trove that you just found, and I want it.
All right, yeah.
So...
Yeah, it's a great story. It happened up in Northern California. And, now that's real money, you see. That's still around 100 years later. And we don't know about things that just exist in computers or in accounts with ink on pieces of paper. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's the story of money and the evolution of what is good money is very interesting, and I think they ought to teach it in school. I didn't learn about it. I had to dig it out of the books myself. But boy, once I got into it, it's a fascinating story. And maybe somebody who has the creative talent can actually write an adventure story, a novel around that, make a movie out of it or something, because it would be a great learning story.
Don't you find it a little ironic that these people found $10 million worth of gold? Granted, it's numismatic coins, and now they're selling it off for paper. And for what's going to be worthless paper, you and I both know the way this story's going to unfold here, Mr. Griffin. We both know about fiat currencies. Now, shouldn't they be exchanging it for a whole bunch of, silver and gold, bartering it, rather than be auctioning it off for?
That's a good question. Depends.
It's bothering me.
I guess it depends on their personal goals. Now, if I were so fortunate as to find $10 million worth of numismatic gold coins, I wouldn't exchange it for other gold coins. I would just keep them and then barter them off as needed to get whatever else I wanted of something tangible. I certainly wouldn't change them for Federal Reserve notes and put them in a bank.
Yeah.
No, I'd keep them in those cans, or I might put the cans someplace else other than underneath the oak tree where they were. But I think I would just keep them someplace and then barter them for, if I needed a new car, or if I wanted to add a room onto the house or something, I'd try and use it for things tangible, or pay for someone's education, or give it to charity or something like that. But I sure wouldn't just swap it off for Federal Reserve notes.
I think I'd kick that can down the road.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Yeah, it just bothers me. What are these people doing here? Haven't they learned anything? They obviously never listened to the Financial Survival Network, or they wouldn't be doing something this crazy, selling these things off for worthless Federal Reserve notes. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, we don't know. Maybe they plan to quickly, while those Federal Reserve notes still have some purchasing power, maybe they're going to quickly use them to buy a yacht or who knows what.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to pay taxes on this stuff, too. I mean, don't forget.
Well, they can pay those in Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah, I guess so, but it just seems something's amiss. They could have moved to a low-tax jurisdiction and, anyway, I'm not going to get into their financial planning, but it just seems like there's a lot of insane societal forces going on here that really are kind of crazy. And I don't know. I think I would have handled things differently, but I'm not there. They are. So
right. Well, it's a sign of our times, and I guess in a more specific way, that means it's a sign that people just don't understand money, because it's not taught. Reading the literature that goes back a couple of hundred years, it's pretty clear to me that the average person, even though they didn't have a formal education, or maybe I should say because they didn't have a formal education, they understood money. And, not everybody either, because look what we went through during the American Revolutionary War and the colonial times before that. The colonies were printing money like crazy. They were some of the first governmental agencies in the world to get their hands on printing presses. Right here in the U.S. colonies, the Massachusetts Bay Colony was the first case of actually using printing press to make money. Happened right here. And, of course, I guess they understood money in a way, but still the politicians got hold of these printing presses and decided to ignore the wisdom that had been acquired over centuries and centuries. And they just started to create money out of nothing, printing press money. And, boy, it just devastated the economies of the colonies. They went through the same thing again when the American Revolution came along. Not only were the colonies printing their own money, but the Federation was printing its own money, the Continentals, they called them. And, of course, everybody knows that they lost purchasing power. The Continental paper bill, when it was first printed, was deemed to be exchangeable for 1 ounce of, let's see, it was gold or silver. Now I have to look it up. It was 1 ounce. I think it was silver. Let's just say.
I think silver, yeah.
And that's how it exchanged on the day it was issued. But less than a year later, the Continental was not worth a penny.
Not worth a Continental.
It's not worth a Continental. It's an expression that survives to our present day. So that has been repeated over and over and over again. And I don't believe anymore that the politicians and the bankers that do that are ignorant of this history. They know the history very well. They just decide, well, it's a good ride while it lasts, and we're in charge, and we benefit. Everybody else suffers, but we know what's going on, and we're just going to, feather our nests for the next 20 years or 40 years, and the heck with everybody else.
And that's exactly where we're at now. And hey, up next, I want to talk about this concept of the solar flare, the solar storm, and the potential for mayhem that causes. On the Financial Survival Network, I'm Kerry Lutz.
Urgent alert. Ex-Secret Service agent claims it's worse than people know. One of Obama's former Secret Service agents recently smelled a rat. What he discovered inside our government was so devastating, he only saw one option. He quit. What's worse, he fears what he found could affect your job, your neighborhood, and most importantly, your family, very soon. It's worse than people know, he said in a recent interview, and I'm not trying to scare you either. We too share his concerns. This is why we've devoted the better part of 3 years collecting solutions for nearly all problems created by intrusive governments, and we've succeeded. Go to hiddensecrets1.info to check out all the details. Our panel of insiders have devised a legal but sneaky set of solutions to help you reclaim your privacy from the NSA, opt out of Obamacare, and make a bundle from little-known investments and small business opportunities. Simply visit hiddensecrets1.info. That's hiddensecrets1.info.
And we are back with G. Edward Griffin. And Mr. Griffin, you had this interest now in the solar storm, the super shot, or the kill shot as it's called. And what's going on there with that? We're not exactly well prepared as a nation or a planet for anything of that nature, are we?
No, we're certainly not. And it's a new topic for me. It's a little bit out of my category. But there was the young lady that came to me a few months ago with an idea to produce a documentary film on solar flares. And I remember thinking, hey, you're in the wrong place. I don't know anything about solar flares or solar storms, electromagnetic pulses, or any of these things. Why do you want to produce a silly documentary about that? Well, it didn't take long before she convinced me that there was a lot I didn't know about this. And what she was basically saying is that we're quite vulnerable. I should say our power grid is very vulnerable to being utterly destroyed by some powerful solar flares, and not just for a few hours or a few days or even a few weeks, but we're talking about months or years. And that caught my attention. I said, is this really true? So I began to do my usual thing, start inquiring around, went out and found all the books that had been written that I could find, at least on the topic, scoured the internet, talked to a few electrical engineers, talked to my son, who is a senior electrical engineer at one of the major corporations in the Los Angeles area, and they produce power supplies for spacecraft, and they have to deal with radiation from the sun all the time to protect their power supplies. And I began to get the story very quickly that, hey, she was right. We really are vulnerable, and this isn't just some scare boogeyman story that, sometimes it creeps into the mainstream media because it's exciting. This is real. And so, as you just summarized it, Kerry, it's just these solar storms are happening all the time. And the amount of energy that's being released in these eruptions, like giant bubbles coming up in a pot of water, the energy is so immense that it just defies imagination, defies any kind of measurement, really. And it's electromagnetic radiation, and it shoots out into space in all different directions. The sun is, the ball is constantly rotating, and so these things are shooting out like rifle shots or shotgun pellets being shot out into space in all these different directions, constantly rotating, constantly shooting out. Well, fortunately, we're so far away from it that very few of them ever strike the Earth. And that's a good thing. So far, we've not been hit by any solar storms that we know of that would affect animal life or plant life. But we can tell by the geological record and the tree ring record and other things that they can sort of calculate backwards that the Earth has been impacted by solar bursts for thousands, if not millions of years. And they're beginning now to be able to predict or at least determine what the range of intensity has been over this long period of time. And it's quite a range. And cutting to the chase now, is that why are we worried about this? Well, we're worried about it because if this kill shot, as they call it, or any major eruption, just happens to be one of those that comes at or near the Earth, it will do something to the Earth now that it never did before. And that is, it'll be picked up by the power grid. The Earth is now, straddled and it's crisscrossed with wires. And these things act like antennae. And they will pick up part of this electromagnetic pulse or energy storm. And the other end of it comes into the Earth from the polar caps, North and the South Pole. Now we have a complete circuit with the antenna drawing it in from the surface along the middle of the Earth and the charge going to the poles. And there's a tremendous circuit that is now possible, tremendous voltages, potential, and surging through these wires and coming up from the ground. They are certain that it will blow these huge transformers at the main generating stations in the grid. Wow. These transformers are as big as a house, and they won't just get damaged; they will blow. They'll just blow up, and they'll catch fire, and they'll be destroyed. And unless they're protected, now we'll come back to that because that's the whole point of it. If there's nothing you can do about this, then it's just like worrying about a meteor coming to the Earth. Here comes the meteor. Oh, look out! It's going to hit! It's going to hit! Well, why worry about it? Just go and enjoy life until it hits. But no, there's something you can do about it, which is the only reason I'm interested in this topic.
You can shield these things.
You can shield them. You can build devices, and it's doable. And the technology is known, but nobody's doing it. And so anyway, to make a long story short, something has to be done. Otherwise, it's inevitable. It's just a question of time. We don't know when. It could be tomorrow. It could be today, or it could be another 100 years or 200 years. But something in between tomorrow and 200 years from now, we're due for a large exposure to solar radiation that surely will blow these big transformers. That means you can't just go out and buy another big transformer. They're not sitting on a shelf. It takes anywhere from a year to 2 years to build one of those things. Each one is different. They are custom made for the installation. And just say it takes a year to build one and then another couple of months to get it delivered and then installed and tested. You're looking at a couple of years to replace one. Now, what happens if 100 of them all go out at once? You see the impossibility. We could be without power for 20 years or more. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what would happen in the big cities of the world after no power in, say, a month? Mm-hmm. It would be over.
A day or two.
A day or two, yeah. Well, that has happened. There are emergency power supplies. Gas stations have emergency power supplies. Hospitals have them. Police departments have them. Government agencies have them. But they'll only last for a week or maybe 10 days.
Yeah, they're not designed to last for years.
No, nothing will last for years. Civilization would slowly dim out in probably about 3 or 4 weeks.
It looked like North Korea on a normal day.
Yeah, it's really it's not a fun thing to think about, and it's real. And the thing that interests me is that I had no inkling of this until this gal came along and said, "Let's do something about this." And I have a feeling most people are not aware of it.
No, definitely not. They talk about EMPs with nuclear weapons and things like that, which I don't know how realistic that threat is. Probably not that realistic, but it's possible in theory. But,
it's a difference between possible, and with these solar flares, it's not only possible,
it's likely.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
It's just a question of when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So that's my great interest right now. I'm trying to get a little enthusiasm because we need support to produce this documentary. We want to put it up on the internet. We're not intending to, sell it to make a bundle of money or anything. We want to just get it out there. And people are writing into us and they're saying, "Oh, you're just spreading fear. Don't you know that's so unlikely? It'll never happen." I'm getting all this pushback. And I'm very disappointed right now and discouraged because I don't know if we'll ever be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, well, just recently there's been all these incidences of the aurora borealis, which only happens generally in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, but it's been going down. They saw it in Texas not too long ago. Really rare to see that happen, and that's a sign of electrical, surges, atmospheric, and the very phenomena you're talking about.
Exactly what we're talking about. Those are the solar eruptions striking the Earth and being caught in the ionosphere and electrically and magnetically being drawn to the poles of the Earth. And as it's moving toward the poles, it ionizes the atmosphere and it glows and it makes a light and you can see it. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly, but it's not a significant event in that it's not causing lights to go out or electrical appliances in your home to blow up. So nobody thinks twice about it, but it's basically a benign occurrence of what it is that you're discussing.
Yeah, and it's kind of an go look at that, Martha. Oh, did you see the northern lights last night? And everybody's in awe of them, but they don't realize that is kind of a warning sign of things to come.
Yeah,
it could be a lot bigger than that.
Yes,
there are records of that where they saw these northern lights in the past in Cuba. There was one of the big flares. It was visible in Cuba. They said you could read a newspaper in the middle of the night by the northern lights in Cuba.
Yeah, bizarre.
This was 100 years ago. Had we had a power grid then, like we do now,
it probably 1859, I think it was.
Exactly. Yeah. It probably would have blown.
Yep, no doubt it would have. In fact, someone was telling me about this. I was reading about it. The telegraph lines, they disconnected, and yet they were still able to send telegraphs over the lines, even though the power source was disconnected, and the operators received shocks on those lines, even after the power supply had been disconnected. So, at that point, how bad it was, not sure, but there was definitely a phenomena taking place. So it wasn't that long ago, and if there was a power grid, could have easily brought it down. But like you said, it's not shielded, and it's not that hard to shield it, but it does require an investment to do it. But, there are certain aspects of the power grid that are shielded, mainly dealing with military installations. They shielded them many years ago to protect against nuclear blasts and, military installations, naval ships, things like that are shielded. But the everyday grid is not shielded.
Right. So, and that's 99.9% of it. So there we are. That's the problem. And so you asked what I'm into. That's it. And I don't know how far I'm going to get because we have kind of a catch-22 situation here. We need public support to help us produce this. And people say, I don't believe it. Well, that's what the whole film is about, is to show that this is real. But if people don't believe it, they won't support us, so we can't prove that it's real, and there around we go.
Catch-22. I got enough to worry about with the monetary system melting down, and you're going to give me this, right?
Exactly what we're getting, yeah. I can't blame them. I was sort of in that category when this gal came to me. I said, oh, come on, let's go back to the banking problems.
Yeah, well, the banking problems could turn out to be the least of your problems if this comes up. But
that's right.
Hey.
Well, you don't want to dwell on the negative aspects of it, but they're real, and most people wouldn't survive that for very long. Some of the experts that have been dealing with this for some time predict that there would be a 90% reduction in human population within a few months.
Yeah, I could see that happening. No refrigeration, no food storage, no food transportation, and, not hard to believe. So on that note,
hard to believe, yeah.
On that note, we have to leave you. But
well, we still have a great day. Let's go do something constructive for the rest of the day. So
we find you, your website, Mr. Griffin. Where do we find you?
Yeah, well, I have a couple of them. My commercial site is realityzone.com. That's where we have books and recordings on all these topics. And if somebody is interested in helping us with this documentary on solar flares, you'll find it there, too. The name of the documentary, tentatively, is called Racing with the Sun. So you'll find all of that at realityzone.com.
All right. And, of course, we'll have a link to that in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Don't forget to sign up. Get your free newsletter, weekly newsletter. Mr. Griffin, I can't thank you enough. It's always a pleasure.
Kerry, thanks for inviting me. Have a good day.
You too. What happens if the collapse never really comes? You need income, and Jason Hartman can help you get it. He's helped thousands of people realize their dreams of financial independence through real estate investing, and now he's got an unbeatable offer for you. He's offering my ebook, Forget Wall Street, Go for the Gold and Silver Too, for free. Just visit jasonhartman.com/Lutz. The first 100 Financial Survival Network listeners will get the book free. Remember, you can't afford to put all your eggs in one basket. Real estate should be part of a balanced investment portfolio along with gold and silver. Just go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz and sign up today. When it comes to real estate investing, Jason Hartman is the only person we trust on the Financial Survival Network. So make your money work as hard as you do by building an income property empire. Real estate is America's proven investment. Go to www.jasonhartman.com/Lutz and get your free ebook today. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. Jason knows how to help you retire with a portfolio of income-producing property. Go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.